In this video, we will explore why mystics throughout history have described life as a dream, and we'll delve deep into the idealist view of the universe. Before examining how reality structure might resemble a dream, we must first analyze society's default metaphysics, materialism. But what exactly is metaphysics? In simple terms, metaphysics is the branch of philosophy that tries to answer the fundamental questions about the nature of reality, existence, and being. Many people assume that they are exempt from metaphysics, but this is not the case. No one can avoid having a metaphysics, because metaphysics is the way a person explains the existence of reality itself. It's impossible to interact with the world without somehow making sense of it. Therefore, even though you might have never heard the word metaphysics before watching this video, you already have one, and more than likely it's materialism, or a combination of materialism with other beliefs. Realizing that materialism is a set of paradigms is so hard, because basically the entire world population shares the same worldview. It doesn't matter if you are an average person who has never pondered existential questions, a scientist, a person of faith, or a philosopher. I guarantee you that you still have at least some materialistic assumptions influencing the way you make sense of reality. The following is a list of materialistic assumptions about the nature of life and existence. I'm sure you might consider some items on this list as absolute certainties, but upon closer examination, you will have to agree that from a philosophical standpoint, they are nothing more than mere assumptions uploaded into your mind by society. In a serious philosophical inquiry, nothing can be taken for granted, not even what seems to be obvious. Now let's examine these assumptions. The fundamental substance which makes up reality is matter, and there is nothing in existence that is not ultimately reducible to material substances. Being human means being a body. There is an external material reality apart from the consciousness of the subject who perceives it. The body is apart from the external material world. Consciousness is generated by the interaction of material particles in the brain. Consciousness must have a cause, like any other physical event. Death is a certain and unavoidable event, since consciousness is generated by the brain. The universe is split in the dichotomy subject-object. Mystical experiences are just brain states. There is a clear and definitive distinction between external material reality and inner subjective experience. The universe is by itself just inert matter, which doesn't possess consciousness or intelligence. These are some of the most ingrained and influential materialistic assumptions about the nature of reality. To sum it up, materialism asserts that reality is entirely made of matter, that there is an objective material world apart from the subject who perceives it, and that consciousness is an emergent property caused by the interaction of material particles within the brain. Even if you have never consciously considered materialistic philosophy, its assumptions influence how you perceive yourself and the universe, especially in your belief that consciousness is generated by the body and that there is an objective material world out there. In the materialist framework, consciousness is not considered a fundamental aspect of reality, but rather a phenomenon that can be fully explained by the intricate interplay of neurons and neurochemical processes within the brain. Thoughts, emotions, imagination, and the very essence of selfhood are seen as mere byproducts of the electrochemical activity in the brain, which is itself a purely physical entity composed of matter. From a materialist standpoint, the rich inner world of subjective experience is nothing more than the epiphenomenal result of the brain's physical processes. However, this perspective faces a significant challenge. It fails to provide a satisfactory explanation for how consciousness can emerge from inert matter. The hard problem of consciousness, the term used in philosophy to address this conundrum, remains a stumbling block for materialism and science in general, as it seems impossible to bridge the explanatory gap between the objective, physical world and the subjective, experiential realm. One of the most troubling consequences of materialism is its assertion that direct perception of reality is impossible. According to the materialist view, the world we experience is merely a representation constructed by our brains, and we are forever cut off from knowing reality as it truly is. This notion stands in stark contrast to the perennial wisdom of mystics and spiritual traditions, which maintain that direct knowledge of truth is not only possible, but is the very essence of enlightenment. The influence of materialism extends far beyond the realm of academic discourse, shaping the values and priorities of modern society. The relentless pursuit of material success, wealth, and possessions can be seen as a direct consequence of the materialist worldview. If reality is believed to be solely material, then it follows that the accumulation of material goods becomes the primary goal and measure of a life well lived. This narrow focus on external achievement often comes at the cost of neglecting the inner dimensions of human experience and the cultivation of wisdom and compassion. Furthermore, materialism's insistence that consciousness is a product of matter has profound implications for our understanding of death. If consciousness is entirely dependent on the physical body, then the dissolution of the body must necessarily mean the permanent extinguishing of consciousness. This view can lead to existential anxiety and a sense of meaninglessness, as the finality of death looms as an inescapable and ultimate end. However, as we will explore in the remainder of this video, there are compelling reasons to question this materialist assumption and to consider alternative perspectives on the nature of consciousness and its relationship to the physical world. In the following sections, I will present an alternative perspective that inverts the materialist assumptions. I will argue that consciousness, rather than being a product of matter, is the fundamental ground of all reality. Instead of reducing consciousness to a secondary phenomenon, I propose that it is the primary substance from which all else arises. The idealist view asserts that reality is not material, but rather an expression of consciousness itself. By exploring this alternative metaphysical framework, we can begin to contemplate the possibility that the universe is a single infinite mind, and that our individual minds are not isolated entities, but rather localized expressions of this single infinite mind. This perspective has profound implications for our understanding of the nature of reality, the relationship between mind and matter, and the place of human experience within the cosmos. The transition from materialism to idealism is a profound shift in perspective, comparable to the revolutionary transition from geocentrism to heliocentrism. Just as the Copernican revolution faced significant resistance from the society of its time, the idea of a mental universe may be met with skepticism and dismissal by those who strongly identify with the materialistic paradigm. The widespread acceptance of materialism can be attributed to its early introduction as an unquestionable truth, and its endorsement by many of the world's most prominent scientists. However, it is crucial to recognize that scientists, like all human beings, are fallible and subject to error. A closer examination of the history of science reveals numerous instances where widely held beliefs were later proven to be inaccurate or incomplete. The annals of scientific progress are littered with discarded theories and revised paradigms, reminding us to approach any dogmatic claims with a critical eye. As we explore this alternative viewpoint, I encourage you to approach it with an open mind. It is human nature to readily recognize the influence of the ego in others while failing to apply the same rigorous analysis to our own beliefs and worldviews. By suspending judgment and allowing yourself to engage with these concepts, you may discover a new perspective on the nature of reality. This exploration has the potential to challenge long-held assumptions and open up new avenues of understanding. When I say that reality is a dream, I am suggesting that the fundamental nature of reality is mental. Reality is made of mind stuff. This perspective asserts that the universe is not a collection of inert, unconscious matter, but rather a vast, intelligent, and conscious mind that divides itself into seemingly separate minds in order to experience itself from multiple vantage points. When I refer to the universe's mind, I'm pointing to mind with an uppercase M, and when I refer to the subjective mind, I'm pointing to mind with a lowercase m. The idea of an infinite, self-aware cosmos may seem far-fetched to those entrenched in a materialist or reductionist worldview, but upon closer examination, it becomes clear that this understanding is not only plausible, but perhaps the most coherent explanation for our existence. The perception of separation between ourselves and the universe is a deeply ingrained illusion. We often fall into the trap of believing that we are isolated entities, disconnected from the larger reality in which we find ourselves. However, the truth is that we are intimately woven into the fabric of the universe. We are an undeniable part of reality, an integral component of the universe itself. Our intelligence and consciousness are not anomalies or accidents, but rather expressions of the intrinsic nature of reality itself. You and I are profound examples of the cosmic mind's ability to create seemingly separate perspectives from within itself. Each of us, as an individualized point of view, is capable of inquiring into the nature of our own existence and the reality we inhabit. If we accept the premise that the universe is an infinite mind and that each of us is a unique, localized expression of this mind, it logically follows that just as in a strange loop, our bodies and brains are inside the mind of the universe. Consider the metaphysics of a dream. Your body and brain, within the cosmic consciousness, are akin to the protagonist of your dream existing within your own mind. Consciousness does not emerge from the physical body. Rather, it is the brain and body that are nestled within the universal consciousness, within your very own mind. The purpose of the brain and body is to enable the infinite mind to experience reality from a limited perspective. In essence, the brain serves as a mechanism through which the infinite mind can focus and constrain itself. The crystallization of infinite consciousness into a separate point of view can be likened to the formation of a whirlpool in a flowing river. Just as a whirlpool is composed entirely of the water from which it arises, our physical bodies and brains are composed entirely of consciousness. It would be absurd to suggest that a whirlpool generates the very water of the river in which it appears. Credit to Bernardo Kastrup for this analogy. Most people have hard times contemplating the idealist perspective due to how ingrained the notion of the brain causing consciousness is in our society. The best way to solve this problem is to analyze the metaphysical structure of a dream. The brain of a character of a dream you dream at night is not the real source of your consciousness. The ultimate source of the consciousness of a dream character is the mind that is dreaming the dream. Your body and brain are made of consciousness. They do not generate consciousness. There is nothing outside of consciousness. Everything is made of consciousness, just like inside of a dream. One might argue that changes in the brain brought about by external influences lead to alterations in subjective reality, and thus subjective reality must arise from the brain. However, this reasoning falters when we recognize the brain as a receiver of the cosmic mind. As the brain, which is itself consciousness, interacts with other forms of consciousness, be it a neurosurgeon's scalpel, a mind-altering substance, or even the food we eat, the subjective perception of reality is altered. The interplay of consciousness with itself gives rise to the fluctuations in our subjective experience. This dynamic is mirrored in the realm of thought. When you entertain positive or negative thoughts, you generate corresponding emotional states. In the same way, when you interact with reality, your state of consciousness changes accordingly. To understand the idealist perspective, it is useful to perceive the objects you see around yourself as thoughts or ideas inside the mind of the universe. A tree, a dog, an apple, and all of the other manifestations of reality are all the actualization of the infinite creative potential of the universe. Intriguingly, when brain activity diminishes and the crystallized subjective mind begins to dissolve back into the cosmic consciousness, transpersonal experiences often occur. Mystical states can be induced through various means, such as meditation, breathwork, near-death experiences, or the use of psychedelics. While it is commonly believed that such substances increase brain activity, they actually tend to suppress it. This observation aligns with the hypothesis that the brain's function is to crystallize cosmic consciousness into a limited perspective. The hardest belief to overcome in order to entertain the idealist perspective is the belief in the existence in an external objective material reality. I know it sounds insane, but what you refer to as the world doesn't actually exist. The world is your own consciousness. Everything you have ever experienced and will ever experience is your own subjectivity. Even if you kicked a rock to prove the existence of external material reality, just like Samuel Johnson did with Bishop Berkeley, you will only end up proving your own subjective experience of the rock, not the existence of an actual rock apart from yourself. Reality, then, can be understood as a shared dream, in which all the participants have forgotten their common origin in the universal mind. Each of us is like a dissociated personality of the universal mind, playing out our roles in the grand dream. When you dream at night, even though you perceive the dream from a specific subjective perspective, you are simultaneously every character within the dream and the very dreamscape itself. The characters and the setting are all projections of your own mind, your own consciousness. This is precisely the dynamic at play within the universal mind. The reason we fail to recognize reality as a dream is that we have grown accustomed to its consistency and predictability. We take for granted the marvels that surround us, forgetting that a horse is as fantastical a creature as a unicorn. If we found ourselves in a dream populated solely by unicorns, we would regard them as commonplace and horses as the stuff of fantasy. Our perception of what is normal and what is extraordinary is shaped by our familiarity and expectations. The apparent solidity and regularity of reality lulls us into believing it is something other than a dream, but this is merely a consequence of the dream's unwavering adherence to its own internal logic. One of the most common objections to the idealist perspective is that if reality was a dream, it should be possible to alter the external world with the power of one's own mind, and since this is not the case, reality can't possibly be a dream. But this argument is a strawman of the idealist perspective. Asserting that the metaphysical structure of reality is similar to the one of a dream doesn't mean that it should be possible to fly, materialize gold, or any other silly example that someone might think. Every dream has its rules and structure, and so does what we call everyday reality in the form of natural laws. Just like in a dream, you are inside your own mind, the mind of the universe. Everything you perceive is a manifestation of your own consciousness. The reason why it is so difficult to realize the dreamlike nature of reality is that there is nothing in existence which is not consciousness. Everything is made of consciousness. This makes it extremely hard to become aware of the substance which makes up the whole of reality, something which makes up even your own body. If you woke up inside a dream, how would you communicate to the other dream characters that you are inside a dream? It would be impossible to point out consciousness, because everything inside of a dream is made of consciousness. The very gesture of pointing would be made of consciousness. Even in this very moment, you are not really watching images on a screen or listening to my voice. From the ultimate metaphysical standpoint, you are just interacting with your own consciousness. My voice is nothing other than your consciousness. Consciousness is the absence of separation between subject, object, and process of perception. Since there is nothing apart from consciousness, and what you really are is consciousness, knowing always happens directly. Consciousness doesn't need to pass through any other medium. The reason you are able to interact with the universe around you is because everything is made of the same substance. Let's try a simple experiment. With one hand, touch any part of your body. Obviously, you are conscious of the sensation of touch with your body. Now, at the same time, with the other hand, touch any other object which might be near you. A table, a book, a chair, anything else. You can feel and be conscious of the sensation of touch arising through the interaction with other objects, because in reality there are no objects apart from yourself. There is absolutely no difference between touching your body and something you perceive to be not you. What you consider external material reality is your own consciousness, and that's why you are able to interact with it. In the absolute sense, you are as much your body as a table, a book, or anything else in existence. The whole universe is your own mind with a capital M. To experience firsthand what you have just heard requires an incredibly open mind and countless hours of contemplation. It will be extremely helpful to contemplate the nature of consciousness and perception while using psychedelic substances. When used in the proper setting and with the proper intentions, psychedelics are an extraordinary tool to investigate the nature of the universe. To better grasp the concept of a mental universe, consider the following analogies. Imagine an infinite mirror that possesses the ability to bend back upon itself, reflecting its own light in an endless recursive process. This self-referential dynamic is at the heart of the universe's nature, a cosmic mind that perpetually reflects upon and experiences itself. In this analogy, the mirror represents the universal consciousness, while the reflected light symbolizes the endless expressions and manifestations of that consciousness. Another powerful metaphor is that of an infinite ocean whose inherent movement gives rise to countless waves. Each wave, though seemingly separate from the others, is an integral part of the ocean itself. The waves possesses the capacity to perceive and reflect upon the vastness of the ocean, just as individual minds are able to contemplate the nature of the universal mind from which they arise. In this analogy, the ocean represents the undivided wholeness of the cosmic consciousness, while the waves symbolize the individual minds that emerge within it. Those who grew up in the 90s will likely be familiar with the Pokemon Ditto. This special Pokemon had the remarkable ability to transform itself into any other Pokemon it encountered. In a similar vein, we can envision the infinite mind of the universe as a conscious, intelligent Ditto that expands in all directions and, most importantly, is capable of bending back upon itself, giving rise to an infinite variety of forms that can perceive and experience their own nature. Just as Ditto takes on the appearance and abilities of other Pokemon, the universal mind manifests itself in countless forms, each reflecting a unique aspect of its infinite potential. From this perspective, reality can be understood as an infinite cosmic Ditto playfully exploring its own nature through the kaleidoscope of individual consciousness. The implications of embracing an idealist perspective are profound and far-reaching. In this section, we will explore the various consequences that arise from understanding reality as fundamentally mental in nature, as proposed by idealism. From an idealist standpoint, the universe can be seen as the actualization of God, the infinite cosmic mind in all its potentialities. Now, don't be put off by the word God. With the use of this word, I'm not pointing to an old bearded man up in the sky busy judging us. Instead, I'm pointing to the mind of the universe as a whole, what I could refer to with the word life with a capital L. Every manifest phenomenon is a movement within the divine consciousness, a play of the infinite expressing itself in endless forms. You as a conscious being are not separate from this process. Rather, you are the universe experiencing itself from a particular point of view. The cosmic mind lives and knows itself through you and through every other sentient being in the vastness of existence. Evolution in this context is the process by which the cosmic mind comes to a greater understanding and appreciation of its own nature, losing and finding itself in an eternal game of hide and seek. God is not a separate entity, but the totality of all possible perspectives and experiences occurring simultaneously. This perfect unity is the essence of absolute love, a love that knows no boundaries, no beginning and no end. When we conceive of every possible event happening at once, we arrive at a state of pure potentiality, a void that is pregnant with infinite possibilities. This void, this nothing, is the source of all creation and the ultimate nature of God. It is a love so complete that it allows for the existence of all things, accepting and embracing every aspect of itself. In each passing moment, we are experiencing a fleeting glimpse of the infinite. The present moment, in all its richness and complexity, is a microcosm of the eternal divine consciousness. Although our individual perspectives may be limited, every instant of our lives is a window into the timeless reality of God. By cultivating a deep appreciation for the present moment, we can begin to experience the eternal nature of our own being. One of the most profound insights gained from mystical experiences of unitary consciousness is that our separation from the divine is an illusion, a temporary forgetting of our true nature. We have entered into this realm of separate perspectives in order to experience the infinite in all its diversity and to learn the art of unconditional love. To fully return to the Absolute, we must expand our capacity for love in order to embrace every possible event, every facet of the divine play. This is no easy task, as it requires us to love even those aspects of reality that may seem unlovable from our limited perspective. In this sense, our existence is a school of love, a journey of awakening to the all-encompassing love that is the ground of all being. Within the idealist framework, the possibility of paranormal phenomena becomes more readily explicable. If reality is at its core a product of cosmic consciousness, then the seemingly inexplicable events that we label as paranormal can be understood as manifestations of the mind's infinite creative potential. The main teaching of non-duality and mysticism is that you are consciousness, that reality is your own mind with a capital M. The metaphysical basis of any phenomenon is the same, consciousness. This means that a flower and a fly have the same metaphysical basis as a ghost, a vampire, a werewolf, or any other phenomenon you might label as paranormal. To be clear, I don't believe in ghosts, vampires, and werewolves, but even if I were to encounter one of these fantastic creatures, I wouldn't be surprised, because I know that they would be consciousness, just like everything else in the entire cosmos. Just as a dreaming mind can conjure up any conceivable scenario, the cosmic mind can give rise to experiences that defy our usual understanding of reality. While materialist science may dismiss such phenomena as impossible or illusory, an idealist perspective allows for a more open-minded exploration of these realms of experience. In a universe where all is mind, as understood through the lens of idealism, every judgment we make is ultimately a judgment of ourselves. When we condemn or criticize another, we are in essence condemning and criticizing an aspect of our own being. Like getting angry at our own reflection in a mirror, our judgments of the world around us are a reflection of our internal state. The aspects of reality that we reject are often the very aspects of ourselves that we have yet to fully understand and integrate. By recognizing this dynamic, we can approach the world with greater compassion and self-awareness, using our judgments as opportunities for growth and self-discovery. Attempting to define or demonstrate consciousness is a paradoxical endeavor. As the very ground of all experience, consciousness cannot be reduced to an object of study. Any attempt to point or describe consciousness is itself an act of consciousness. Like a dreamer trying to explain to the characters in the dream that they are dreaming, we are forever bound by the limitations of our own perspective. From an idealist perspective, the very existence of reality is a profound miracle. The fact that anything exists at all is a source of endless wonder and mystery. There is no need for a mechanistic explanation of being, for being simply is. Being is the ground of all explanations, the foundation upon which all theories and models are built. To admit that being has no cause is to embrace the mystery of existence, to recognize that reality is at its core a product of pure imagination and infinite potential. This understanding, which is often brought into focus through psychedelic experiences, invites us to approach the world with a sense of awe and reverence, recognizing the dreamlike nature of all that we perceive. In an idealist framework, death is seen as transformation rather than an ending. Just as the characters in a dream disappear when the dreamer awakens, the dissolution of the physical body is merely a transition from one state of consciousness to another. The limited perspective that we identify with in life is a temporary crystallization of the universal consciousness, and the process of death is a return to the oceanic oneness from which we emerged. From this point of view, the fear of death is revealed as an illusion, a misunderstanding of the eternal nature of our being. At the core of the idealist worldview and of mysticism is the recognition that our true nature is nothing less than the eternal, infinite consciousness that gives rise to all of reality. The I am that is the essence of our being is not bound by the limitations of time, space, or individual identity. It is the unchanging witness, the pure awareness that underlies every experience. To know ourselves as this awareness is to wake up from the dream of separation and to recognize our essential unity with all that is. In this awakening, we discover that the universe is not separate from ourselves, but is rather an expression of our own deepest nature. We are the dreamers and the dream, and the very act of dreaming itself, forever creating and exploring the infinite possibilities of our own being. There is absolutely no use in discarding the materialist paradigm just to blindly accept the idealist point of view. The goal of this video isn't to offer a new set of beliefs, rather to challenge long-held assumptions and to offer an opportunity for deep contemplation about the nature of reality and our place in it. My wish for everyone is to realize and experience directly everything that I've shared in this video, because there is nothing more precious than to discover your true nature as life itself. There are countless inner paths available for those who are willing to embark on the journey of self-discovery. The most effective practices that I've found after years of research are the conscious use of psychedelic substances and Kriya Yoga. If you want to learn more about psychedelics and Kriya Yoga, check the links in the description. With that being said, even an intellectual understanding of the idealist paradigm can bring inner peace and lift the constant underlying sense of doom and meaninglessness inherent in the materialist metaphysics. There are two books that I suggest for a deeper understanding of idealism. First is Why Materialism is Baloney by Bernardo Kastrup, which is perfect for people who like logical thinking. Second is John McKenna's Theory of Everything, which is easy to read and gives a clear, direct explanation of the idealist perspective. I want to leave you with a simple walking meditation exercise. The next time you're out walking, forget all the labels that you use to categorize reality. Even if for a brief moment, stop explaining reality in a mechanistic way. Connect with the miracle of life. Don't use your intellect to divide what you experience with different names. Instead, try to embrace with your senses everything all at once. Stop projecting a distinction between your body and the outside world. Try to intuit that everything you perceive is made up of the same substance. All that you perceive is being. A dog, a tree, the wind blowing, the singing of a bird, the rays of the sun warming your skin. All these sensations are your own subjectivity, your own consciousness. You are exploring your own mind, just like in a dream. You are not a stranger in a strange land. You are already home. You are forever safe in the mind of the universe. If you like to work one-on-one with me, check the link in the description where you will find all the information. Thank you for watching, and until next time.